Now, in my system, there are 5 lakh records. In my system, there are 5 lakh records. And what I have to do is for all these 5 lakh records, I have to do some update. Unfortunately, I cannot use data loader because I have some logic. Based on the logic, the corresponding update should happen. So then what will I do? The ideal approach is I know that my SQL query cannot fetch me more than 50,000 records. This is the limitation for my SQL. And my DML cannot perform more than 10,000 records at once. You cannot perform, you cannot perform DML on more than 10,000 records in a single transaction. So unfortunately, what I have to do is I have to first write some code, get my first set of 10,000 records, get the 10,000 records, do the DML. Then take the second 10,000 records, do the DML. Take the third 10,000 records, do the DML. And like that, I have to do it for all the records, which is very, very time consuming. And let me tell you, you have to do it manually by yourself. Going into anonymous block, click on execute, wait for it to be done, then open anonymous block, again click on execute. You have to do it for all the 5 lakh records till the task is completed for all the 5 lakh records, which is actually difficult for you. Now think like this. Now you have to do it for 5 lakh records almost on a daily basis. Then one person must be hired only for the sake of doing it. You have to hire one person only for the sake of clicking on execute button. Only for the sake of it, you have to hire one person. So in order to overcome those specific scenarios, we have an approach called batch. What is this batch class all about? In this batch class, the advantage for you is you just give me the list of records. You give me the list of records. I am smart enough. I will decide. Once you give me the list of records, I will break those records into different chunks. I will split those records into different batches. I will send my first batch into some method, and that method will do everything. Once that method tells me that okay, I am done with the set that you have given me, I will give the second set. Then my method will again do the processing. Then it will tell me I am done with the second set. Then I will give the third set. Then my method will tell me I am done. Then I will give the fourth set. My method will do it. Then it will tell me okay, I am done. Then I will give the fifth set. Like that, I will do everything for you. You just give me list of records for me. That's it. If you give me list of records, I will split them into different chunks, and each chunk will be sent into a method. And let me tell you, whenever my method is handling a chunk, that itself is taken as just one transaction for you. You don't really have to worry about it. You don't have to open anonymous block every time and click on execute method. You just give me a list of data. That is enough for me. I will take a paint diagram and I will explain to you what it is all about. There are three methods here. When we speak about a batch class, we speak about three methods here. One, start. Second, execute. And third one is finish. These are the three methods that we have. Start method is primarily responsible for gathering the data. So what do you have to do here? You have to write a SQL query for which you feel that these are the records for which data update should happen. So write your SQL query. So start method, sorry. So start method will be holding the SQL query for which the results are to be fetched. That is what the start method will do. Then what is this execute for? This execute will hold the logic of doing some DML. It could be about doing some DML or it could be some any other job. Okay. Finish method, we will come to it later. Now what we will do is let us understand a scenario where you are dealing with 5 lakh records, where you are dealing with 5 lakh records, and you told to the system that these are 5 lakh records for me, and I am writing a SQL query for you in the start method. But we know that batch class is quite smart enough to handle records up to 50 million. So 5 lakhs is not even a count for a batch class. Okay, fine. You gave me 5 lakh records. Now what I will do, these 5 lakhs, I will make them into different chunks. I will divide them into different chunks of equal size. I'm not able to draw shapes of equal size, but it will divide them into equal sizes. I will name it as first batch. I will name it as second set. I will name it as third set. Then I will name it as fourth set. Then 5 and then 6. Okay, fine. I have divided them into 6 sets. Obviously, it will be more than that, but for our example, I'm just taking it as 6 sets. What will start method do? The start method will first send the first set to the execute method. Start method will first send the first set to the execute method. Okay, it has sent the first method. What will execute do? Execute will do the logic of do ML only for the first set. Okay, first set is completely done. Then execute method told to start. Okay, I am done with your first method. Now what do you want to do? Okay, fine, now I am sending you the second set. Now if you see, one transaction happened for the first set, one transaction for the first set. Then second transaction, this is again a different transaction, one transaction for the second set, one transaction for the third set, one transaction for the fourth set, one transaction for fifth set, and one transaction for sixth set. And again, whatever you're writing in the start method, that is one transaction for start method, one transaction for finish method. Now, if you see here, the moment you execute a batch job, start method is gathering the data for that one transaction is fine. Okay, fine. Yeah, even though if it is taking it as one transaction, I'm least bothered because my data limit is 50,000. So start method gathered all the data. Start method prepared these different chunks, and first chunk is sent into the execute. Execute handled the chunk, and execute communicated to the start method. Okay, I'm done with your first chunk. Now start method will send the second chunk. Execute handled them, and then second one is also processed. Start method will send the third one. Okay, that is done. Execute told. Okay, I'm done with the third one. Okay, third one is also done. Now start method sent the fourth one. Execute communicated. Okay, handled fourth as well. Okay, fine. And then fifth as well, and then sixth as well. Then once the start method gets to know that there are no more records to be processed, then start method will not call execute, start method will call the finish method. Now if you see, how many times is the execute method getting called? Execute method is getting called based on the number of batches you have. If you are having 6 batches, execute method will get called 6 times. If you have only one batch, execute method will get called only one time. If you have 100 batches, execute method will get called 100 times. But how many times is the finish method getting called? Finish method will get called only once. That is the difference. Execute method will get called multiple times based on the number of batches that you are having. But whereas when we speak about finish method will get called only once all the batch processing, once the processing of all the batches is done, and start method do not have any data or any batch to be sent to the execute method. At that point of time, start will tell to the finish that okay, I do not have anything, and once you are done, then we can say that the batch job is completely successful. This is how the batch works. The only thing that you have to do is write your logic, whatever you have to process for the records in the execute method, write your SQL query, whatever records are to be processed in the start method, and that's it, you are done. So as we were discussing, the batch class is all about having 3 methods. The very first method for preparing the data. Once the data is really given to the start method, then it will do the entire job of splitting them into different chunks of data, and each chunk will be sent to the execute method. Execute method will be holding the processing logic. It will process the batch that start method has given, and it will immediately communicate to the start method, I am done. Then start will give the second batch if present. Then the list goes on, and once the start method is out of batch, if it is not having any chunks of data to process, at that point of time only finish method will get called. So now if you feel like okay, once my batch job is completed, I want an email to be sent out, means then that logic should be kept in the finish method, because finish method gets executed exactly once the complete job is done. When the point of execution comes to finish method, it means that there are no more batches to be processed. Okay, fine. Now if you feel like I wanted to call one batch class from another batch class, then let me tell you again, finish method is the place, because once you are done with processing the entire batch, once you are done with processing the data that you want to process, once everything is done, only then call the next batch from your finish method. You can call one batch from another batch provided that you are writing the logic of invoking another batch in the finish method, not in the start method or not in the execute method. Now let me show you how to write a batch class, and then maybe we can see how it can be used. The syntax of writing batch class is kind of different when compared with other classes. The syntax is kind of different. I recommend you, not just for batch class, for the other asynchronous Apex topics, what all I have covered today, go through the trailhead. That is very important for you. Once the session is done, immediately complete trailhead batches related to all the other asynchronous approaches. Now for syntax, the terms are kind of different and complicated, so I'm again referring to the trailhead for batch class only. I'm not logging in. Okay, fine. So this is the process. Okay, I will just copy each and every line and I will explain you what this is all about. Okay, now come file new class. So I wanted to say update contacts. I want to update every contact present in my system. So I'm just giving my name as update contacts. And batchable is also an interface. This is also an interface. Schedulable is an interface, queuable is an interface, and batchable is also an interface. So I have to implement something like this. Okay, this is the syntax that I have to take into consideration. Let me see. Implements database.batchable. Yeah. So I'm just taking this into consideration. Implements database.batchable as object. And I am coming here and I am pasting this. Okay. As you're implementing an interface, what is the prerequisite? What all methods are present in this specific interface? All those methods are to be used. And what methods do we have in this interface? Start method is present, execute method is present, finish method is present. Okay. Let us write every method now. So this is the start method. I'm putting it here. Now, in this start method, there are two options for you. Either you can choose database.queryLocator or you can use iterable as object. What is the difference? What is iterable and what is database.queryLocator? If you feel that I will just give a SQL query and whatever is the result of that SQL query that should be handled by the batch class, means go for database.queryLocator and write your SQL query. If you feel that no, I will not write a SQL query, I have my list of records and I will pass those list of records from another class to this class. I have my list of records somewhere. I will give those list of records to this class. I want this class to process the list of records that I'm sending. I'm not gonna specify a SQL query. I will give some list of records, means then go for iterable as object. It doesn't mean that it should be a list of records only. It could be a collection, any collection. So for now, for our example, and even this is kind of good for us to understand as well, I am using database.queryLocator only because I will be writing a SQL query, and as part of the SQL query, whatever results I am gonna get, I will be updating them. So this is what start method is all about. Then what is this execute method? Execute method, let me paste it blindly. If you see here, I told you that from start method, execute method will be called. If you see, that is what from start to execute communication happens, and from execute to again start communication happens. And that is the reason why if you see the parameter name is almost the same, database.batchable context only, because start method should know which batch I have sent you, so that if you come in next time I can give you the next batch. I should not give you the same batch, right? I should know which batch I have sent you, which means we need to have something in common with each other. That is nothing but batchable context. This is for their internal communication. Now start method will tell that okay, I have given you the first batch. Then execute will tell to the start that I completed the first batch, so the start will give second batch. Then execute will tell I completed the second batch. Okay, as I have completed the second batch, I will give you the third batch. So for the internal communication to happen between start and execute, there should be something in common, and that is nothing but batchable context. And then what is the second parameter? This second parameter is nothing but the chunk of records that were sent to the execute method. I told you that only one chunk will be sent at once. Once the first batch is sent, where should that be stored? That is stored in this specific variable called records. That is what execute is all about. Execute will have two parameters. First parameter for communication with the start method. Second parameter will be nothing but the collection of records that are to be processed. Then the third method, finish method. In this finish method, you can say any logic which should get executed once the entire batch is done. Okay, these are the three methods. Remember that you have to write these methods with the same name and with the same signature. You cannot change the signature also, because that's what a method is all about. Okay, fine. Now in this query locator, if you see, it is not a void method. This is void method and this is void method, but this is not a void method. This method is expecting you to send something of type database.queryLocator. We have not seen what database.queryLocator till now. Okay, fine. What is this database.queryLocator means? Database.queryLocator is nothing but okay. Database.queryLocator is nothing but just more like list of records. That's it. Just a SQL query that will give you a list of records. That is what database.queryLocator is all about. It is nothing much. So what should we write here, or how should we write here means, first write your SQL query. What is your SQL query? Okay, I wanted to process all the contact records that are present in my system. Okay, select ID, comma, name from contact. And what is the change that you wanted to do? What I wanted to do is I wanted to give same name of my account to the contact. Whatever is the name of my account, the same name should be given for my contact. This is the change that I'm actually making. Those requirements seems weird, but still for our example, let us Take a scenario like you wanted to update all contacts with its corresponding account name. That is what you have to do. Okay. Now, unlike the other ways, you will not just say list of contact lst con is equal to the SQL query. That doesn't work here. This is not the way how we should be doing. Because if you write a SQL query like this, immediately system will tell that okay, the rows are more than 50,000. I will not do anything for you. You have to tell to the system that it is a SQL query, but consider it in a different way. How will you tell to the system to consider it in a different way? Means first enclose your SQL query in single quotes and assign it to a string variable. Okay, string str query is equal to something. First do that. Then second step, what you have to do is there is this method called get query locator. Database dot get query locator. You have something like this. Okay. Into this, you need to pass the string. Whenever you make use of database dot get query locator, system will immediately understand that okay, this is a SQL query, but should be handled in a different way. How should it be handled in a different way? Means this SQL query is capable of fetching me records up to 5 million. I mean, even if the SQL query fetches me records greater than 50,000, I should still be able to handle. Reason being, batch class is holding the capability to process records up to 50 million. So whenever you make use of database.getQuery locator, only at that point of time you will be able to truncate or you will be able to combat the limitation rule of processing records only till 50,000. So database.query locator has to be used, and it can be used only inside batch class start method. This cannot be used at any other place. That is one more thing that we have to understand. Database.query locator is available only inside the start method. Okay, fine. We have written the database.getQuery locator and our start method is done. In the start method, we just write the SQL query. That's it. Apart from writing SQL query, there is no other point of making use of start method at all. That is the only thing we will be doing. Then let us speak about execute. Execute method is more like a logic that we write inside a trigger. We will be having one for loop, and in this for loop, which object are we trying to deal with? We are dealing with contact. I will name this as scope rather than putting it as records. I will name it as scope because scope is the most widely used term for the second parameter inside execute method. Contact obj con, and then I will just say scope. So what does it mean? Now let's assume that this SQL query fetched me 10,000 records and my default batch size is 200. I'm just taking an example. This SQL query fetched me 10,000 records and my default batch size is 2,000. Now the start method had sent me the first 200 records to the execute method. So what will the scope hold? The scope will hold the list of contacts. How many will they be? They will be 200 in count. So I'm iterating through those 200 records now. And what change do we want to do? We want to make change to the name field, stating that it should hold its account name. I'm querying for account.name also, so I am fine here. And then I am doing update scope. That's it. Your batch class is done. You just wrote your start method. In the start method, you are preparing your data. In the execute method, you are writing your logic in order to process the data that was prepared. Okay. Contact.name. Okay. Name is a formula field, more like a formula field, which is concatenation of first name and last name. So I'm updating last name now. Invalid loop variable expected S object was contact. Okay, fine. Now you can actually say it as contact here rather than telling it as list of S object. If you say list of contact, then yes, we are good now. So what did we do? In the first method, we have prepared a SQL query, and then in the second method, we are assuming that okay, I'm getting a list of records. For that list of records, whatever I have to do, let me write my logic. And in the finish method, if you wanted to really send out an email, if you feel like okay, I want to send email to some specific person stating that this has been done or this has not been done, if you feel like doing anything, do it. If you feel like there is nothing that I have to do once my batch jumps miss, then just leave it method without any logic. But can you, as you're not making use of this method, can you just remove this method and save it? No, it will not allow you to save it because you are implementing an interface. It is a prerequisite that you have to make use of all the methods present. If you feel like this method is of no use, just have that method without any logic inside it. Just leave it the way it is. But without this method, you cannot even think about saving the class. So this is how you will be writing the batch class. Okay, so what are we trying to do here? First method, prepare all the records. Second method, have the logic of processing them. But make sure that you're having a for loop and you're iterating through the list of records that are being sent from your start method. Now, how should I execute this batch class? There is one statement which you have to make use of in order to execute the batch class. The statement is database.execute batch, database.execute batch, and then provide the instance name of your class. If your class is having any instance, just provide the instance name. So just to say ins and then put semicolon. That's it. Your batch class will be executed. And if you click on execute. What it will do is it will try to handle all the records that are present in your system, and then all the records in your system will get updated. Let me query for last name. If I do not query for last name, it will throw an error. Okay, because you're updating last name, and all the records that are present in your system, all the contact records present in your system will get updated. What update will happen? The last name will get updated with their corresponding accounts name. That is the change that you are actually trying to perform as part of this batch class. Now, there is one more thing that you have to understand. When you are trying to use database.execute batch, one parameter is enough, but you can also pass one more parameter, and that parameter is nothing but the batch size. You can tell how many records should each of my chunk hold. If you feel that my chunk should hold only one record, means handle only one record at a time, means you can say one. If you feel that no, handle 1,000 records at a time, means then you can say 1,000. Now let's assume that you are trying to process record count of 5,000, and if you say batch size is 100, then this method execute method will get executed how many times? Because you're telling it as 100, execute method executes 50 times. But when you say batch size as 1, execute method will get executed 5,000 times. But when you say batch size as 1,000, execute method will get executed 5 times. So you can decide how much should be the batch size. But if you do not specify the batch size, system will by default take the batch size as 200. 200 is the default batch size. If you do not specify anything, 200 will be taken into consideration. But if you specify, whatever you specify will be taken. Now you can ask me, okay, does it mean that I can specify 1 lakh? No. Even if you specify 1 lakh, there is a process that the maximum batch size is 2,000 only. You can specify beyond 2,000, but still system will take only 2,000. Even if you specify 20,000, system will take only 20,000 as the maximum batch size. That is how it will work. So this is the minimum batch size, this is the maximum batch size, this is the default batch size. This is how batch will work. Now what I will do is, for us to really understand, I will give ins comma 1, which means I wanted to update one record at a time. Though this is not good, but I'm still giving one record at a time, and I will click on execute. Now I will come to this Apex jobs place, and if you see here, how many batches are there? 45 batches. Why 45 batches? Because I have 45 records in my system, and I'm handling one batch at a time, due to which it is telling me that 45 batches are there. And if you look at the status is processing, and if I reload the page, I can see that out of 45 batches has been processed, and among these 45 there are 7 batches that got failed. 7 batches got failed. Why did they fail? Because of some other error. What could be that error? We are populating last name. Why is it still throwing an error? Means that contact might be not having an account at all. What are we trying to do? We are trying to tell put the account name in the last name field, but as there is no account present, it will be null. But last name is a mandatory field for contact to get saved, due to which few records failed, few got passed. But does it mean that all records are passed, all records are failed? No. When you are trying to deal with a specific batch, when you are trying to deal with a specific chunk, only that chunk will get affected. Other chunks will still go into the same process. When a record is failed, only that chunk will get affected and not the other chunks. But when you say database.update here, even that specific record will get affected, not even the chunk. When you say database.update, only that specific record in that chunk will get affected, and other records in the chunk will be processed just as is. So this is how a batch class will be working. Now assignment for you is, there are some other interfaces that we can make use of inside batch class. One such interface is database.stateful. Remember the word database.stateful. Let me put this. There is a significance of making use of this stateful, and I want you to explore the significance of making use of database.stateful. For a batch class, yes, this is how you have to write it. But there is one more interface which you can make use of in order to handle something for a specific scenario, and you will be able to do it only by using stateful. So I will leave that as an area of exploration for you people. So with this, we are good with the batch class. Any questions? Can you help with an example where you use ISSS object? Okay, sure, I will do that. I will do that. Any other questions? Can we access the query we created from start method / execute method in finish method? See, just try to understand. It is all about scope here. Where is your string variable present? Your string variable will present within this method. Then why will it be available? If you have your string method created at the class level, then obviously it will be available for all the methods present. What is the use of stateful? That is assignment for you. I don't want to reveal the answer. Scope is variable of list. Scope is the name of variable, not variable of list. It is just name of the variable that I have to give it. Can we call another batch class from one? Yes, you can do it, but you can do it only from the finish method. Can you show updated account name? Sure. Now if I open, for this specific contact, there is no account name, due to which no change happened. Okay, due to which none. You can also see that last modified date is 20th February because update failed for this. But when you look at this specific record, Edge Communications is present and it was updated today. I updated just the last name, not the first name. So Edge Communications is present today. For this specific record, Edge Communications is present, last modified today. Why do you want to call future from batch class? Tell me that. When batch class itself is so strong for you, when you're handling very limited set of records, why do you have to call a feature method? Leave about the possibility here, but these are all very bad practices. If you really want to play with the governor limits, that is a different way, but such things are not at all really encouraged. Execute method is so strong enough to handle the records that are being sent from the start method. Why do you really want to incline towards another asynchronous apex here? Database dot batchable context is a variable. Yes, you can give any name for your variable, but database dot batchable should be used. Database dot batchable context should be used. You can give any name for this specific thing. If you want to say context, you can give. If you want to say batchable, any name you can give for this. It doesn't have to be same. How many batches will run at a time? Okay, at a time 5 batch jobs can be placed in a queue. Only 5. Governor limit, it's not government limit, it is governor limit. Okay, governor limit is based on the license which we purchase. No, governor limits is not based on the licenses which you purchase. Governor limits or the limits enforced by the Salesforce just to ensure that the code whatever is writing is written in the most optimized and efficient way possible. Can we roll back if any error occurs? Yes, there is a possibility for rolling back. You can use database dot rollback. There is an operation for database dot rollback. Okay, I'll explain the scope part again, and I'll explain the concept of IEEE, and with that I can go to the test classes. Okay, so scope is nothing but the list of records that your start method is actually sending to you. Now we understood that we are having around let me take a relevant example now. Now what I want to do is, there is a room, okay, and in this room there are some bags. Okay, there are like around 5 bags, and there is one more room. The thing that you have to do is you have to move one bag into another room, because okay, let's take like this. You can hold only one bag at a time. You cannot hold more than 2 bags. You can hold only one bag at a time. Now you have to move the bags from this room to another room. So what will you do? Come to this room, take this bag, then go to the other room. Again come to this room, take this, go to the other room. Again come, go to the other room. Again come, take the other room. Again come, take to the other room, and then you are done. So what are you trying to do? You are just making trips between start and execute with some data. And are you trying to repeat the same data? No, you're not repeating the same data. And once everything is done, will you again come to start method? No, you will not come to it. I mean, will you come back again? No, you will not come. Now in the same way, just look at the same example. What are we trying to do here? We are just trying to prepare the data in the start method. Think that it is one room. From this room, you are trying to send data. Okay, fine. You had sent the data. Once the data is processed, what is the execute doing? Execute is sending back a message stating that okay, I am done, send me the next set. Then start has sent the next set, then execute communicated, I am done, I am done. Okay, I am done, process this. I am done, process this. I am done, process this. Once everything is done, then start has nothing, then it will come to finish. Now How is the start sending the data means whatever SQL query you have written here, that SQL query will be splitted into different chunks, and each chunk, when I say chunk is nothing but collection of records. Though it is a single record, it is still a collection only, and that collection will be sent to the execute method. Now there should be some variable to hold that collection, right? And this is that specific variable, and you are using this variable, doing the iteration, and then doing the job. That is how it is working. Any questions on after updated? How you link between start and execute? No, we are not linking anything. It is an interface, and they have some engines that are running behind. We are not doing anything. If you see, this is the logic that you have to write. Database dot execute batch. That's it. You are not telling the system to call start method. You are not telling the system to call execute method. System will know that. If you say execute batch, system will come to start, prepare data, call execute. System will do everything for you. You are not doing anything. After updated name, can we get old name? Okay, there are two processes now. This is completely out of batch, but still there is something called as field history tracking. If you have field history tracking enabled for your object, you can still go and check what is the old name. How many records can we get using database.get query locator? I think it's 50 million. I mentioned that 50 million can be fetched. If I have batch job in process, and if you try any DML which will fire trigger, then what will execute? Trigger or batch will be on hold. No, wait. If you see here at this specific line, you are doing a DML. The moment you do DML, obviously all the event centric components that are on contact will fire. That's how it works. No matter from where you do DML, the event centric components will fire, and that should happen within 10 seconds. If that did not happen, then this batch will fail again. So once you get something, when you are doing a DML, corresponding things will happen immediately. The moment this line executes, all the event centric components will get fired. Batch execute limits. See, batch is basically to combat the limits. Why are you thinking about limits for batch class? Okay, at a time not more than 5 batch classes can be kept. That is one thing. And second thing is, batch classes cannot be scheduled. So what do most of the developers do? They will write a batch class, and they will call this batch class from a schedule class, and they will schedule it. That is how most of the companies do operate. Can you please share PPT? Yes, I will share PPT. So the thing is, batch class alone will not be used, because you cannot really ask your end user to go and do this, right? So what will people do? They will create a schedule class, and in that schedule class you will do this, and you can ask your end user to specify your time whenever you want some logic to happen. Schedule class cannot hold, cannot really operate for huge set of data. Batch class cannot be scheduled. So what we'll be doing, we will be actually using them in combination. Batch executions per day. No, there is no such thing, per day and all. We do not have anything as per day. All these classes can be combined with Aura and LWC. You can combine if you are following the syntax, but keep in thoughts that it is asynchronous, which means you will not be able to see the output on the UI level. Okay, fine. I'll just show the concept of iterable now, and then we can go for test classes. So as we thought that we are thinking to make use of iterable, now I have to change the method name a bit. Okay, let me see what should be the method name. The method name should be something like this: iterable s object. Iterable s object. Now what should I do? I have to send some value to this iterable s object. So again, for that, let me put this over here. And then I have something like this: return new list of string. Okay, fine. Now for this, what I will do is I will create list of contact lst con. I will have one parameter constructor, like how I did for queueable. Public update contacts, list of contact, list contacts, lst con is equal to list contact. So I have created one class level variable, and to this class level variable, whatever I'm trying to receive, that I am sending it over here. Now here what I will do is, rather than telling it like return database.get query locator, here I can just say lst con. That's it, you're done. If you have data with you already, if you feel that no, I don't want to execute a query, I have data with me already, means then send the data to the batch class, like how you do it for Query. And in the main method, you can either provide a SQL query which will give data, or you can give a variable which is holding the data. Again, the same thing. Execution won't change at all. It's the same process when you use iterable. But I personally feel more than iterable, database.query locator makes much sense to me.